Chapter 1. Prologue. 1. Space hung silent and vast above the Earth, a stillness so profound it seemed eternal. Then, without warning, a small, otherworldly spacecraft burst out of the expanse, barreling toward the Earth's atmosphere with reckless urgency. Its form was sleek and streamlined, crafted of a dark, mirror-like material that reflected Earth's vibrant blue oceans and swirling white clouds. As the ship pierced the atmosphere, it began to shudder. Compression shock waves rippled across its frame, a fierce greeting to Earth. After its long, smooth voyage through the void of space, the craft vibrated with newfound energy, an invigorating tremor of life. Its edges started to glow, ionizing into a brilliant, fiery trail that streaked across the sky. The vessel, like a shooting star wrapped in a blazing cloak, carved its path high above the Earth, scraping the very edges of space. Amidst this frantic descent, a sonic boom erupted, a thunderous declaration of its arrival. It was spectacular, bright, leaving behind a swirling contrail as it hurtled towards its destination, a fiery herald announcing its presence in a display of light and sound. Still high in the atmosphere, the ship descended towards a blanket of clouds, surreal and vast, careening on its course. The sun, dipping below the horizon, set the atmosphere ablaze with hues of crimson and gold, fading into the deep purple of twilight. Beneath the spacecraft, the clouds, ethereal and tranquil, sprawled like a second Earth. Peaks and valleys of vapor, bathed in the waning sunlight, undulated below. The distant sun, slipping behind the planet's curve, spilled its final hues of orange and purple across this high-altitude wilderness. It painted the cloudscape with a brilliance that rivaled the oceans and mountains below, a fleeting masterpiece of nature's artistry. Far below, cities ignited like clusters of diamonds. Their lights pierced the expanding darkness, a testament to humanity's existence. This flickering, delicate web of illumination spun a story of life, of civilization, across the face of the silent globe. But for the ship, this was no gentle terrain to admire. It was a barrier to breach, another tumultuous threshold on its fiery plunge to the world beneath. The serene beauty of the cloud world was a stark contrast to the ship's relentless descent, a dance of light and shadow on its journey to the heart of human civilization. And then, as swiftly as it had arrived, the ship was swallowed by the cloud cover, continuing its relentless descent. Above, the skies returned to their peaceful state, the brief disturbance now just a memory. Yet beneath this cloudy canopy, a profound secret was in motion. A ship bearing unknown cargo, a mystery wrapped in alien steel, hurtling toward an unknown fate. 2. In the heart of the small Kansas town, where life moved with the unhurried cadence of familiarity, the evening unfolded with a youthful exuberance that could only mean that it was Friday night. A bonfire blazed at the center of the gathering, its flames leaping toward the ink-black sky, as if attempting to commune with the stars. Around this pyre, the high school's star players and their closest friends celebrated the victory of a football game, the air infused with the scent of burning wood and the exhilarating sense of teenage freedom. Deep in the woods, away from the watchful gaze of parents and coaches, they reveled in the triumph. Yet there, on the edges of the firelight's dance with the night, stood Emil Hamilton. 17 and awkward in his own skin, he remained a solitary figure, an observer against the backdrop of this raucous celebration. Emil's eyes, deep and thoughtful, held the glimmer of distant galaxies. His mind was often adrift in thoughts far from the gravitational pull of high school social rites. This was not his realm. He was more at home amidst equations and theories, his spirit resonating with the silent music of the cosmos, rather than the thumping beats shaking the autumn air. Yet, there he was, clutching the straps of his backpack like a lifeline, working up the courage to break through the invisible barrier that separated him from them. Somewhere in the laughter and the shifting bodies was a girl, Jessica, whose smile had the unsettling effect of making Emil forget the comforting order of the universe. Emil inched closer, each step a study in forced casualness, his heart drumming a nervous beat. His palms were damp, his throat tight as he maneuvered through clusters of classmates with ease that surprised even him. With each move, he rehearsed words that sounded increasingly hollow in his head. Phrases about stars and supernovas that he hoped would bridge the vast expanse between his world and hers. The warmth of the fire touched his face, a stark contrast to the cold knots of anxiety in his stomach. Emil drew a breath, steadying himself against the night, against the uncertainty of this alien social landscape. And there, in the dance of flames, he saw her, laughing, her eyes reflecting the firelight. And for a moment, just a moment, Emil believed he could do this, that he could cross the cosmos for a chance at an earthly connection. 3. 100 miles away in a dimly lit room at McConnell Air Force Base, members of the United States Air Force Quick Reaction Alert crew gathered around for a much-needed break. The card game was Major John Corben's domain. As a key member of this elite team, always on standby for rapid deployment, he found these moments of camaraderie crucial. Cards in hand, chips steadily accumulating, Major Corben had his fellow pilots chuckling at his playful taunts. "You all might want to consider a second job," he declared, his grin a blend of challenge and assurance. This light-hearted banter was a brief respite for the crew, providing a sense of normalcy amidst their high-stakes responsibilities. Across the table, Captain Elena Whiplash Diaz, her eyes sharp and confident, tried to stare him down. "The only job I'll need is helping you count all the money you owe me after this hand, sir." "You ever hear the story of why they call me Zero, Diaz?" he asked. "Go ahead. Regale us with the sure-to-be-true story of the legend of Zero," she said, leaning back in her chair. The room was thick with the spirit of friendly competition. They had all heard dozens of Corben's stories, each more extravagant than the last, and none of them likely the truth. Major Corben, the man of many myths, was as renowned for his tall tales about his call sign as he was for his flying skills. So, there I was on a domestic flight from LA to Metropolis, just enjoying the view, when suddenly, "We're told there's a bomb on the plane," Corben said. "Here we go," Diaz said. "So, the timer's counting down fast," he said, ignoring her. "Everyone's panicking, but not me. I was cool as a cucumber." "Right, because disarming bombs is standard Air Force training?" Corben waved her off. "Details, Diaz, details. There I am, wires everywhere. And the clock's ticking down, right? Like a Hollywood movie." "Of course, a regular action hero." "You got it. I'm looking at these wires and it's like they're speaking to me. Red, blue, green, yellow. It was like a rainbow of imminent doom. Are you going to play a card or continue holding us hostage with your obviously true stories?" "Oh, it's a true story," Corben retorted. "And so it's counting down, 10, 9, 8, and I'm there thinking, which wire?" Diaz leaned in, feigning interest. "The suspense is killing me, Zero." Then, as the timer ticked down to 0, I choose the red wire. Always bet on red, right? Snip. And crisis averted. Disarmed it right there at 30,000 feet. That's why they call me Zero, with 0 seconds left on the clock. Always cool, even a mile high in the sky. Diaz rolled her eyes. "Or maybe it's because you've got 0 chances of beating me tonight," she shot back, her voice laced with mock seriousness as she picked up her cards. The others around the table snickered, watching the banter between their fearless leader and the equally formidable Diaz with amusement. Corben laughed heartily, the sound echoing in the room. "We'll see about that, Diaz. We'll see about that." As Major Corben nonchalantly tossed his next card onto the table, a sudden, piercing alarm shattered the room's casual atmosphere. The sound cut through the laughter and banter like a knife, instantly shifting the mood from relaxed to razor-sharp focus. Everyone in the room sprang into action, their training kicking in without a second thought. The card game, the jokes, the tall tales, all were forgotten in an instant, replaced by the adrenaline of the moment and the weight of duty. Simultaneously, Corben's cell phone began to vibrate insistently on the table. He snatched it up, answering with a brisk, "Corben here." The voice on the other end was terse, laced with urgency. "Major, there's an unidentified aircraft in our airspace, a very unusual aircraft. We need you and Diaz to investigate now." "Yes, sir," Corben said sharply as he ended the call, his face instantly shifting to a mask of command. He turned to his crew with an authoritative tone. "Briefing room now. We've got a situation." Chairs scraped against the floor as the pilots sprang into action, their playful banter instantly replaced by a focused silence. The air was thick with tension, each pilot mentally preparing for the unknown challenges that lay ahead. In the ready room, screens flickered to life, and maps were laid out. Corben, now in full command mode, led his team with a calm authority, his earlier playfulness gone, replaced by the demeanor of a seasoned leader facing an imminent threat. The situation was serious, and so were they, ready to defend, to engage, to protect. 4. Back at the bonfire, Emil approached Jessica, his hands inexplicably sweaty. The fire crackled in the background, a beacon in the small town's night. "Hey, Jessica," he began, his voice barely above the crackling of the flames. "Did you know when a star goes supernova, it's brighter than an entire galaxy? It's not too different from your smile." Jessica raised an eyebrow, a half-smile dancing on her lips. "That's quite a pickup line. Did you find that one in an astronomy textbook?" A chuckle rose from the group nearby. Emil's face flushed a deeper shade than the embers before him. "No, Well, I do really like reading," he admitted, his eyes darting to the ground. "Is that so?" Jessica prodded, her skepticism clear, but not unkind. "What else have you read?" "I've read a lot," Emil said, his voice gaining a bit of confidence. "I guess mostly science stuff." Jessica's eyebrows raised slightly. "Really? That's kinda cool, I guess, if you're into that nerdy stuff." He nodded, then added quickly, "I mean, people think it's boring, but it's fascinating, you know? Reality is so much more interesting than what's in novels." Her response was immediate. "Well, I actually love fiction. It opens up worlds that reality just can't reach, you know?" Emil's face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and enthusiasm. "Oh no, I didn't mean to say fiction isn't interesting. It's just, reality has all these unbelievable things. Way more interesting than fiction, but... yeah, I get it." Jessica folded her arms, half amused and half challenged. "Come on, all that space stuff you're into, it's just so out there. Supernovas, galaxies, black holes. But really, when are we ever going to use supernova trivia? It's not exactly a hot topic at parties, you know." He scrambled for something impressive. "Did you know that black holes can spaghettify objects?" Emil blurted out, instantly regretting his choice of words. The laughter around them grew louder, and someone called out, "Emil, I think you're gonna spaghettify Jessica with your charm." Jessica laughed too, and the sound was a punch to Emil's gut. Emil began to quickly back away when he tripped over a half-buried log, sending him sprawling backward to the ground. Laughter erupted from the crowd, echoing louder than the crackle of the fire. In the firelight, Emil's face flushed a deep crimson, the warmth spreading across his cheeks. He began to shake, a trembling that coursed through his body as he struggled to maintain composure. He felt as though he was teetering on the edge, fighting the urge to completely lose it. Struggling to stand, his pride as bruised as his backside, misfortune struck again. He bumped into a classmate who yelped as his drink soaked through Emil's shirt. "Hey, watch it!" the guy snapped, shoving Emil away. All Emil wanted in that moment was to escape, to be free from the judging eyes and mocking laughter. He felt trapped in a spotlight of humiliation, his every move amplifying his embarrassment. Breaking free from the crowd, Emil fled into the sanctuary of the woods. The laughter followed him like a haunting echo, each chuckle a sharp sting, each whisper a cut to his soul. He ran further, the mocking voices still reaching him, predicting endless jokes at his expense in the days to come. Jessica's eyes, shining with amusement and etched in his memory, seemed to follow him, solidifying the night's events into an unforgettable embarrassment. He ran until the sounds of the party were distant, his breath heaving in his chest, his heart pounding with mortification and 1,000 racing questions. The dark embrace of the trees offered a refuge from the piercing light and taunting voices of the bonfire he had left behind. The laughter still seemed to chase him, mingling with the whispers of the leaves, while Emil's thoughts spiraled in a chorus of remorse and self-doubt. The trees stood like silent sentinels as Emil's footsteps crunched on the leaves. the echoes of ridicule in his mind overtaken by the rush of his own heartbeat. His thoughts were a tangle of embarrassment and the sting of public shame. In the clearing beyond the trees, he stopped, chest heaving, the taste of regret bitter on his tongue. Then, far in the distant sky, something caught his eye. A flaming speck of light that burst through the clouds with an unusual intensity. As he watched, a sense of wonder and curiosity began to replace the humiliation that had consumed him moments ago. Something extraordinary was happening, something incredibly unusual. He strained his eyes, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. It wasn't a shooting star. Its trajectory was too deliberate, too controlled. It wasn't a satellite either. It was too bright, too fiery. It was nothing Emil could identify, yet it captivated him, drawing his full focus. And, most intriguingly, it was rushing in his direction. The mysterious object continued, cutting through the night sky with a blazing trail, leaving Emil with a mix of awe and a burgeoning sense of concern. What could it be? An aircraft? A meteor? Or something far more inexplicable? As the object neared, becoming clearer against the night sky, Emil's pulse quickened, a surge of adrenaline mingling with his mounting curiosity about the unusual spectacle unfolding in front of him. Five. High above, the thrum of engines signaled the urgent ascent of Major Corben's fighter jet, piercing the calm as he propelled his F-22 Raptor to its very limits. Far ahead, a light shone brighter than any star, a solitary, mysterious aircraft cutting through the darkness, its brilliance a stark contrast to the dark canvas of the cosmos. Corben's eyes, narrowed in focus, remained fixed on this interloper that dared to punctuate the serene domain of the stars. The tension grew palpable, a silent force that filled the cockpit and stretched down to the control room below, where anxious operators tracked the unfolding encounter. His voice came through the radio, clear and focused. "Base, we have an unidentified contact. Doesn't match any profiles I know. I'm pushing in closer." "Copy that, Major," came the response, calm yet alert. "Use caution." As Corben narrowed the gap, his wingman, Captain Diaz, broke the silence, her voice edged with the same incredulity that gnawed at his gut. "0. I'm at your 3. This thing, it's cutting through the air with no resistance." Corben agreed. "No drag, no jet wash, nothing," he said, watching the craft's seamless maneuvers. "Stay sharp, we don't know what we're dealing with." The unknown craft suddenly altered its course, as if acknowledging the presence of the fighter jets. "It's mirroring our moves," Corben reported, a mix of admiration and concern in his tone. He radioed the craft with official warnings, the protocols clear but his voice reluctant. "Unidentified aircraft. This is the U.S. Air Force. You are in restricted airspace. Identify yourself immediately." Major Corben nudged his F-22 Raptor closer to the unidentified aircraft, the gap between them narrowing with each passing second. The tension in the cockpit was palpable as he observed the mysterious craft. "Base, this is 0. I have close visual contact," he reported, his voice steady despite the uncertainty of the situation. "It's not a conventional aircraft. No sign of standard aero design. Where did you say it came from?" The response from base crackled through his headset. "NORAD reports it dropped into our airspace from above, directly from orbit." Corben squinted through his canopy at the object, which seemed to hover effortlessly in front of him. "This thing isn't that big. No windows, no obvious signs of a pilot." He flew closer, close enough to make out the seamless surface of the craft. The voice from the base came again, tinged with concern. "Are we sure this isn't a weapon, Major?" Corben scanned the object, searching for any hint of its purpose or origin. "I have no clue what this is," he admitted, his gaze locked on the enigmatic craft. "Be advised, 0. The voice from base was more serious now. "We're dealing with a lack of identification, unknown origin, no response to our hails, and a concerning trajectory." Corben knew he had to try again. He adjusted his headset, his voice more imperative this time. Unidentified aircraft. This is U.S. Air Force Major John Corben. You are in restricted airspace. Identify yourself immediately, or we will take action. Silence was the only reply. His finger hovered over the trigger, the weight of consequence heavy in his hand. Base. The aircraft is non-responsive. I'm locked on, but... He trailed off, the gravity of potential engagement heavy in his breath. Major, it's your call. Base confirmed. The line crackling with the tension that filled Corben's cockpit. Let's drop back into combat protocol, Diaz. Stay alert, Corben said. Roger. Falling back. Corben exhaled, his breath misting in the cold air, his resolve firming. Base, I'm firing a warning shot. Let's see if that gets their attention. 6. Below, Hamilton stood at the edge of a vast, open field, the tall grasses swaying like a calm sea. The large lake beside him mirrored the twilight sky as the glowing object in the sky rushed closer. It was distant yet bright, a herald of the unknown. His heart skipped. Time seemed to slow as he peered into the distance, trying to make sense of the anomaly. Then, the silence shattered. Fighter jets, like metal dragons, roared overhead, their engines a deafening thunderclap against the tranquility of the lake. They appeared to be on an intercept course with the unusual craft that moved with an elegance that was mesmerizing, ethereal. The unusual aircraft banked sharply, a movement so sudden, so precise, that it seemed otherworldly. It moved with a precision and agility that appeared almost supernatural. The fighter jets, in pursuit, followed as best they could, their movements echoing the strange crafts with a deadly precision. Hamilton stood in awe, captivated by the extraordinary display of aerial dexterity, feeling almost as though he were part of the high-speed chase, immersed in the intensity and skill of the pursuit. As the chase intensified, suddenly, one of the fighter jets launched a missile. It tore through the sky, a lethal streak aimed at the mysterious craft. In an instant, the unusual aircraft responded, not with conventional weaponry, but with an intense burst of light. It was more than just illumination. It was a force, potent and directed. The lead jet, reacting with lightning reflexes, veered off, narrowly evading the burst. But the second jet, trailing slightly behind, wasn't as fortunate. The light engulfed it, and in a horrifying instant, the jet erupted into a fireball, a shocking display of destruction that reverberated through the evening air. The sound of the explosion thundered across the landscape, a grim echo that followed the visual terror, confirming the dreadful outcome of the encounter. Emil, witnessing the scene, felt a chill run down his spine, a mix of awe and fear at the power and mystery of the confrontation unfolding before him. 7. Blazing through the skies above Kansas, Major Corben pushed his F-22 Raptor into a steep arc, realigning his trajectory in pursuit of the enigmatic craft. The events unfolded rapidly, leaving him reeling. Diaz's jet was gone, vanished in the blink of an eye, and he hadn't seen her eject. The reality of the situation was stark and brutal. He was now alone in this high-stakes chase. Corben's grip tightened on the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. He was a veteran, yes, but the craft ahead was like nothing he'd ever encountered. Base, come in. Bird 2 is down, he reported, his voice a blend of disbelief and steely resolve. Repeat. Bird 2 is down. There was no longer any doubt in Corben's mind. This was a threat, a clear and present danger, and he was the only line of defense left. He steadied his breathing, focusing intently on the enigmatic craft in his sights. He was preparing for a quick, evasive maneuver, expecting the craft's retaliation and planning to fire a second missile in a surprise counterattack. I have the target locked, Corben confirmed, his finger hovering over the trigger. He fired. The missile screamed through the abyss towards the rogue entity, its path straight and true. As anticipated, the craft responded with its blinding, unknown weapon. Corben, relying on his years of training and instinct, executed a series of evasive maneuvers, narrowly dodging the initial blast. The maneuver bought him just enough time to fire off the second missile. But this time, the craft's countermeasure was devastatingly precise. a blinding flash of light struck Major Corben's fighter jet, causing a catastrophic explosion of force. The cockpit shuddered violently under the impact, alarms shrieking as systems failed in rapid succession. Corben felt a sharp pain searing through his body, his vision blurring as he fought to stay conscious. The jet, now heavily damaged and uncontrollable, spiraled downward in a deathly plunge. Corben, with every ounce of his training and willpower, struggled to regain control, but the damage was overwhelming. His body ached intensely from the injuries sustained in the blast, making each movement a battle against agony. "I've been hit, attempting to eject," he exclaimed, but his report was cut short as his eyes caught sight of something unusual, damage, perhaps, on the mysterious craft. But his time for speculation was gone. Survival was now the only game. His instincts kicked in. He needed to eject, but the system was jammed. Panic clawed at him as the jet started to come apart around him. "I can't eject! It's jammed! It's jammed!" he roared, fighting the manual override. Seconds stretched like lifetimes as the Earth pulled him closer to its fatal embrace. Then, freedom. The canopy burst away, and Corben was flung from the dying jet, the night air rushing past him. His chute deployed, yanking him away from his doomed aircraft, and watched helplessly as the unusual craft accelerated away, disappearing into the night as if it had never been. As he floated down in his parachute, the pain engulfed Major Corben, each jolt of his descent amplifying the agony. He grimaced, trying to assess the severity of his injuries, the uncertainty fueling a deep concern. The world below seemed distant, a dark expanse that he was helplessly drifting towards. The Major's mind raced, not with fear, but with a grim introspection about the reality of his situation. Was the damage to the craft real, or a trick of his distressed mind? As his consciousness waned under the weight of his injuries, Corben's world faded to black. 8. Emil stood frozen, his breath stolen by the spectacle before him. The sky, once a peaceful dome of twinkling lights, was now a chaotic canvas. Chunks of metal hailed from the heavens, a cacophonous downpour that marked the grave of a fighter jet. He had watched, mouth agape, as a missile made contact with the enigmatic craft overhead, shearing away a curved object from its sleek, metallic hull. Heart pounding, he tracked the trajectory of the object. It wasn't just falling, it was plummeting, a fiery streak under the soft glow of the moon. The impact was a muted thud, the ground shuddering slightly under his feet. His curiosity piqued. Emil moved, his legs carrying him towards the smoldering crater. There it lay, amidst charred earth and fractured foliage. A piece of the craft, still aglow with an inner fire that seemed to pulsate in the quiet of the night. It was otherworldly, crafted of materials and geometries that defied earthly conventions. Could it be alien? His mind reeled at the thought. Gingerly, Emil extended his foot, nudging the object, half expecting it to melt the sole of his shoe. It was surprisingly still, its warmth radiating into the cool night air. His caution wavered, a hand trembling as he reached out. His fingertips brushed against its surface, and a jolt of exhilaration surged through him. It was incredible, smooth, yet textured in ways he couldn't comprehend. The artifact was mesmerizing, pulling him in. And then, with a surge of daring, he grasped it, lifting it from its earthly tomb. In that moment, the barrier between Emil and the vast unknown thinned. Holding the artifact, he felt it, a resonance, a vibration that sang of distant worlds and advanced civilizations. It was as though in his hands, he cradled not just a piece of debris, but a beacon of uncharted realms and infinite possibilities. Emil could feel it in his bones. This was not of human origin. This was his discovery, his alone, a fragment of the cosmos, offering him a whisper of the extraordinary. 9. The night sky, only moments ago a stage for a high-speed aerial chase, now returned to its calm expanse. But in the distance, the enigmatic craft that had sparked the night's drama was now a distant silhouette, rapidly descending towards the Earth. The spectacle of its flight, a dance of light and shadow against the celestial backdrop, was drawing to a climactic close. As the mysterious ship dipped below the tree line, the world seemed to hold its breath. Emil, standing alone in the quiet of the woods, watched in awe. There was a subtle, yet distinct swell of light, a gentle bloom in the darkness that painted the trees in ethereal hues, and a tremor underfoot. The ship had arrived,